Welcome to the 4Heroes podcast. Today's message from the 4Heroes Huddle is one of the most real and raw conversations we've ever shared. After a sudden loss in our local public safety community, Chaplain Frank Mercer teaches from Psalm 90 and reminds us that life is short. We all have an expiration date. That's not easy to think about, it's not easy to talk about, but it's true. And while life is often hard, Frank reminds us that it's also a gift. Every day, every single day is a day that God has made for us to live, to breathe, to choose wisely, and most importantly, to not miss Jesus.
Let me just start by saying that we're going to talk about something that nobody likes to talk about. We don't like to talk about death, especially our own, But we all die, I don't know if this is new news to you, but you've got an expiration date, just like the carton of milk in your refrigerator. Hopefully yours is a little longer than that milk carton. What you and I have is terminal. My friend John used to say, nobody gets out of here alive. You know what happened to my friend John? He died. That's why I say he used to say that. In light of some recent events, I want to read to you from Psalm 90. I'm going to start in verse 3, and this is Moses, by the way. This is one of his psalms. He's speaking to God. You turn people to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that's just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away, sweep, S-W-E-E-P, people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it's dry and withered. What does that mean? It means people are born, people live, people die. And that happens over and over and over again. Wash, rinse, repeat. Born, live, die. I guess at this point, maybe we should talk about the elephant in the room. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because my friend, our friend, Ralph, died last Thursday night. I think everybody in the circle had a chance to meet him at least once. He actually came to Bible study about 3 weeks ago. Penny brought him in. She was off duty and came and brought him in, wanted to make sure he was here. I've known Ralph for a little over 2 years. I knew him in Fayetteville, rode with him as his chaplain there, and he came to Tyrone. I think Ralph was a good man. I enjoyed his company, but he was in a lot of pain. He was in a lot of pain, and Ralph chose to take his own life last Thursday night. 33 years old. Based on what we just read and talked about, it was inevitable. He was going to die, but he didn't have to die that night. He chose that. Why does that happen? I think it's because we're broken people who are living in a broken world. Let's be honest. We've all had this thought. There was a moment on one of your darkest days where you thought about suicide. You're still here. For whatever reason, you set that idea aside. And when I say you've thought about it, I've thought about it. We all think about it. I'll tell you what I told Ralph on his very last day. That when I asked him if he was suicidal, that had to have been at least the third time I asked in 2 days, and he said no. And I said, I'm really glad to hear that. I've had 3 friends within the last 10 years who bailed on me, who chose to take their own lives, and it's jarring every single time. Every single time, because that person feels like if they take their life, it will erase their pain. But it doesn't erase their pain. It just causes their pain to splatter up on everybody who cared about them. And we bear that pain. That's why I feel the way I feel this morning, why you feel the way you feel this morning. So I think it's important to say, you got to check in with each other. And you got to check on each other, because all of us are carrying pain, all of us are carrying baggage, and we're all carrying these secret thoughts that we don't tell other people about. And there ought to be at least one person in this circle that you're honest with. You would tell them anything, everything. And if they asked you the question, are you thinking about suicide? You would tell them yes. One of the reasons I'm feeling what I'm feeling is because he lied to me. He told me no. Like a lot of you, I talked to Ralph a lot. He was going through a tough time. He had an accident 6-8 weeks ago where he shot 2 toes off his right foot. All of us tried to express as much care and concern as we could. Tony drove him around. I drove him around. Dave drove him around. Andrea drove him around. People tried to make sure that he had food, he wasn't going to go hungry, and we were checking in with him all the time. He resigned from Tyrone PD Tuesday morning after some unfortunate choices on Monday, and I was very concerned. It felt like the wheels were coming off the bus for my friend Ralph. So I started checking in every day, multiple times a day. I was so worried about him that Wednesday I went to the apartment and asked him for all of his weapons. Clearly, he did not give them all to me, and I'm struggling with that too. Most of all, just trying to give him some hope, help him to see that he still had a future. And I know that there were 3 of us who were working very hard on that. Looking back, there are some things that I wish he had understood. They weren't things he wasn't told. It's just that he didn't embrace them. And I think it's really important that each of us embrace these ideas. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to go back to Psalm chapter 90. I'm going to jump to verse 10. Our days may come to 70 years or 80. So you might live to 70 or 80. Gosh, my dad's 87. He's beat that. If our strength endures, yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. So here's the first thing. Life is hard. I don't care who you are. Life is hard. Don't let anybody tell you different. Life will punch you in the face. It'll punch you hard, and it will punch you repeatedly, relentlessly. Don't be surprised to find out that trouble's moved in next door, and now it's knocking on your front door every single day. Moses says, the best of my days, my very best days are filled with trouble and sorrow. And we know the storm's going to pass, right? The night will end. The sun will chase the darkness and the clouds away 100%. Your trouble is temporary. Temporary, it is. But your trouble is also recurring. It comes back, and sometimes it brings friends. There's always another storm brewing on the horizon, another dark night of the soul. Why is that? Again, it is because we are broken, fallen people living in a broken, fallen world, living on the clock, tick, 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 that's ticking life away, and living under the curse of our sin and its consequences. Life is hard. The fact that life is hard does not mean that you should put a period where God puts a comma. There is more to this life than pain. Life is hard. It's hard with Jesus. I can't imagine how hard it must be without him. Life is hard. Also, this is the second, life is short. He says our days may come to 70 or 80. but they quickly pass and will fly away. We're gone. Gone. You ever watch a bonfire or a campfire at night and you watch those burning embers and sparks climb up into the sky, orange, and then just nothing? It's gone. That's how quickly, and it's over. James 4:14 says our life is like a mist that appears for a little while and then, boom, vanishes. That means that every day you have, every moment you have is sacred and precious, a gift from God. No one lying on their deathbed ever asked for one more dollar, but they do ask for one more day. You and I got out of bed this morning, right? Now, to varying degrees of ease, I'm sure. It was a struggle this morning for me, I'll be honest. I haven't been sleeping good the last few nights. And I had to drag myself out of bed this morning. But you know what? I sat up on the edge of the bed, and I was drawing oxygen in and out of my lungs. My heart was beating. I have functional fingers and toes and eyes and ears. I'm alive. That's blessing because every day is a gift. Psalm 118:24. This is the day. This one, right here. That goes for all the days that end in Y. Days that end in Y are days that God has made. So rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day, this is a life that God's made. Don't throw it away. I'd want Ralph to understand that. I wish that he had understood that. And I want to understand it too, and I want you to understand it. Life is hard, and there's no need to make it harder. And my friend Ralph tended to do that. Life is short, and there's no need to make it shorter because it's like a mist that's going to vanish. So verse 12 of Psalm 90 says this. In light of all that, Moses says, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Number your days. Think about the length of your life and make the most of the time that you have. When I was a younger man, in the first half of my life, I felt like, man, we can run trick plays and pull out all kinds of gimmicks and stuff. I got to halftime, and you had to kind of reevaluate. I don't know what you considered halftime. I marked 50 as halftime, although it's probably into the third quarter, to be honest. I'm 59 now. And if I'm still in the third quarter, I feel like there's not a lot of time left in the third quarter, And I'm looking hard at the fourth quarter coming up. The older I get, the faster time moves. The older I get, the more important it is for me to number my days and make the very most of the time I have left. Nobody plays football the last 2 minutes the way they played it the first 2 minutes. You're playing with a sense of urgency and purpose and watching the clock, numbering your days. And then there's this one last thing. Don't miss Jesus. I was at his apartment on Wednesday. He was on the couch. I was on the love seat. And we were talking, and he was having a hard time. He'd already surrendered what I believed were all of his weapons. They were sitting next to me on the love seat. And he started to cry. It wasn't the first time I saw him cry that day. And I said, I know your heart is breaking. I know that you are hurting. But do you know that God is near? And he looked down and he nodded his head and he said, I don't feel it, chap. I don't feel it. And I said, Doesn't matter. Nevertheless, he is near. He's close to the brokenhearted. That's a promise. Close to the brokenhearted. He's near. Right now, in this pain, he's shown himself to you through the kindness and concern of others who have been his hands and feet. He has been expressing love to you. All these people who are making sure you get to the doctor and back, and making sure you got food to eat and that you can get to work, and just checking on you just because. When we did that, we were expressing the kindness of God toward him. But in that moment, everything was so clouded he couldn't see it. Well, on Thursday, I called him 3:30 in the afternoon, about 3 hours before he took his life. I decided to try a different approach because I'd been thinking about it. So I called him and we talked for a long time. I was in the car, had my phone on the console next to me. He was on the speaker in the car. I just kept driving around. I was trying to get to 911. And I was talking to him, and I pulled into McCurry Park, and I just kept circling around in McCurry Park, which is fine, except I kept passing the same people walking on the trails. And after you pass them 3 or 4 times, they start looking at you like, what are you doing? Some kind of stalker. I said to him, yesterday, when I brought up faith, you said that you didn't sense that God was near, and I told you that people had been the hands and feet of Jesus coming and showing you his kindness. But there's something else here. He came to you, took your sin and shame upon himself so that you wouldn't have to carry it. He came to you, and now you've got to come to him. What are you waiting for? His arms are open wide. He is waiting for you to come to him in faith and repentance. He is waiting for you to start living the life he's always intended for you to live. This is a new start. When we talked the day before, he said, well, I used to go to church when I was a kid. And I told him Thursday, I was like, I know you said you went to church with your family as a kid, but I'm not sure you really ever owned that. Do you think you ever owned it? Well, I don't know. I said, what I'm talking about is not religion or ritual, going to church, jumping through all the hoops. I'm talking about a living, dynamic relationship with Jesus that happens when you express to him, I am a great sinner who needs a great Savior. And Jesus, I believe that you came. You died. You rose from the dead and have the power to erase my debt of sin and guilt and shame and help me to start over. Ralph, you might know a lot of things about Jesus, but do you know Jesus? Long pause. I said, do you hear what I'm saying? He said, I hear you. It's a lot to think about. And I said, I know. But tell me you'll think about it, though. Yeah, I'll think about it because I'm going to see you again in another day or two, and I want to talk about it some more. And we said goodbye. That was the last time. I didn't know it was going to be the last time. If I'd known it was going to be the last time, I might have pushed harder. But it was the last time. And I'm trying to process that because I talked to him like a man who had more time. I believed he had more time. It's a 17th century preacher named Richard Baxter who said, I'm a dying man preaching to dying men. We're all running out of time. So I'm saying to you what I said to him. Don't miss Jesus. Some of you have heard the ugly rumor that was going on about me a couple of weeks ago. I was visiting fire stations and had pulled over into a parking lot so I could return some texts and phone calls. And my friend Brian, who lives up in Clarkston, Georgia, he called me. I immediately answered. I love Brian. I love hearing from him. Hey, man, how you doing? He says, hey, boss, how are you feeling? I said, I feel good. He said, well, that's great news. That's not the word on the street. And I said, well, what's the word on the street? And he said, the word on the street is that you died. I said, what are you talking about? So it's funny because right now it's a rumor. But we all have an expiration date. And one day it'll be fact. One day it'll be fact. And the important thing at that time is going to be what happens next. And that's determined by whether I knew Jesus or not. There's only one person who's ever died and come back, so I tend to trust what he says on the subject. Revelation 1:18, Jesus says, I'm the living one. I was dead, and now look, I'm alive forever and ever. I hold the keys of death and hell. Same Jesus, John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Revelation 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock, and if you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and fellowship with you and you with me. That's the deal. Don't live without Jesus. Life is hard with him, but it's harder without him. Don't live without him. And for sure, don't die without him either. Don't die without him either. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you for listening to the 4Heroes podcast. Today's message may have been heavy, but our hope is that you heard the good news. Life is short, but Jesus offers eternal life. If you've never said yes to him, today is the day. Don't wait. If you're a first responder and you need someone to talk to, or if you're struggling with loss, doubt, or despair, we'd love to come alongside you. Please reach out to us at info@4ourheroes.org or text Chaplain Frank Mercer directly at 770-681-5964. And if you'd like to support this ministry through prayer, giving, or serving, visit 4ourheroes.org. That's the number 4, 4ourheroes.org.